Yeah, people need to know this is not spiritual Disneyland. This is serious stuff. You really need to know what you are absolutely signing up for.
So there is a purging component oftentimes to ayahuasca, not always. The way she describes it is a nightmare. I can't imagine who she went and did this with, but it's not about making you vulnerable. It's about you signing up to be vulnerable and learn something about yourself. So welcome to the Psychedelic Sages Update. We're on a mission to educate, provide intuitive insights, truth bust, while being watchdogs and guides for topics around spiritual medicines, more commonly referred to as psychedelics. Okay, we have another really interesting clip here. I think anytime that someone famous decides to go do something and talk to the media about it, it's always a bit sensationalized. But Megan Fox has had a journey with, I believe it was ayahuasca. So let's tune in and hear what she has to say about it.
The Till Death actress appeared on Monday's Jimmy Kimmel Live with guest host Arsenio Hall and opened up about her quasi-spiritual journey in the Central American wilderness with her boyfriend after drinking the psychoactive tea used in ceremonial rituals as a spiritual medicine.
Do you guys know what ayahuasca is?
Oh, yes.
So we went to Costa Rica to do ayahuasca like in a proper setting, like with indigenous people. And I was thinking it was like glamping or something like that. It's still going to be like some kind of 5-star experience. And you get there and
okay, I know she has more to say, but I'm eager to jump in here because we just listened to a lot of lack of preparation, lack of knowledge, lack of knowing, and she's jumping in on a situation that is not probably going to end well.
Yeah, people need to know this is not spiritual Disneyland. This is serious stuff. You really need to know what you are absolutely signing up for. And yeah. I think the lack of preparation for someone who is a celebrity and has a certain amount of responsibility, in my opinion. But again, how could she not know?
Well, and I don't like to get too petty on these things, but if you're not able to pronounce the medicine correctly either, it does sort of give you an idea immediately of how much knowledge she has regarding ayahuasca.
You really are in the middle of the jungle and you don't get to eat after like 1 p.m. You have to walk a very far distance to get your water. You can't shower because they're in a drought. Nothing glamorous about it. It's all a part of sort of making you vulnerable so that you surrender to the experience.
Megan recounted how the whole ceremony kicked off by having everyone in the group of 20 strangers empty the contents of their stomachs.
You all line up at like the edge of the rainforest over this weird fence, and you go 3 by 3 and you drink lemongrass tea until you, like, by not your own volition, just vomit everything out of your body. So you
have to vomit. There's no way around that.
You can't get out of it, and you have to vomit a certain amount before they let you get back with everybody. So you're like cheering on everyone as they like go out.
So there is a purging component oftentimes to ayahuasca, not always. The way she describes it is a nightmare. I can't imagine who she went and did this with, but it's not about making you vulnerable. It's about you signing up to be vulnerable and learn something about yourself. So clearly her intentions were so far off from what ayahuasca would want you to come into a ceremony with.
Absolutely. You know, we call it the power of the purge. The vomiting is really, really an important part of it. But also, I'm going to say this, is to look at the vomit, to look at what's coming out of your being. Yeah. And there's messages in that. I know it certainly was for me. And that's part of it, to see what you're actually purging. And there's usually profound messages. And I know that sounds pretty gross, but again, as part of the preparation and the understanding of what you're actually releasing is part of the gift of this medicine.
Yeah, and I also just want to add that, you know, it's not about whether you purge or not, whether it worked or not, whether you're clear or not. Your body is going to work with the medicines in whatever way it needs to release the toxins. For me, I haven't had a lot of purging in that way, but I know that my purging has still come through my intestinal tract. and still has released out of my body. So this whole judgment around, not yours, but people's judgment around purging is just not necessary, because it really is an experience that if you're called to have it, it can be a very positive experience, not necessarily while you're experiencing it, but the whole intention behind it is to release. So there is a lot of good things that come of it. All right, let's take a listen.
Yeah, so Megan admitted that she and MGK had some reservations about throwing up in front of strangers at first, but added that it's, quote, such a good bonding experience and it strips you of any vanity.
People love it.
And when it came to the ceremony itself, Megan said the experience lasted 3 nights and was, quote, incredibly intense.
Everybody's journey is different. The second night I went to hell for eternity. Yeah. And to just knowing eternity is like torture in itself, because there was no beginning, middle, or end. So you have like a real ego death.
And Megan says that ayahuasca was able to help her in ways that therapy and hypnotherapy couldn't before.
It just goes straight into your soul, and it takes you to the psychological prison that you hold yourself in. So it's your own version of hell. And I was definitely there.
While Megan and Machine Gun Kelly's spiritual trip was private, they certainly haven't been shy about showcasing their love in public, sharing steamy smooches at high-profile events, and gushing over each other on social media.
So talk about, it bonded them as a couple. And she talks about her own self-created hell, which is actually very profound things to say. That you do have the ability to potentially bond with other spirits, in body, out of body, people you don't want to bond with, people you do want to bond with on an ethereal life cord perspective. So interesting point. And then for her to say, her own self-inflicted hell. Well, again, don't do these medicines unless you're ready and willing to see your own stuff come forward. It is the point of the medicine so that you can release it.
Yes, these medicines are sometimes designed so that you can interact with your shadow self, which is part of your, I would say, total understanding of who you are, the positive, the negative, and not saying that the shadow is always negative, but it certainly is a part of becoming whole as a person, to experience the both sides. And I think a lot of people can't or are not ready to see the full manifestation of the shadow that could be the person's personal hell. So it makes total sense to me that she would have had that experience.
Yeah. And as we've said on many videos before, it's the integration work afterwards, which she did not speak of, and she probably most likely is not doing. And so there's only so much that's going to come from a journey without any integration. It's in some cases probably just shoving a lot of it back down.
I agree. The integration is really, really important. The fact that they've bonded is really quite an interesting thing. It'll be interesting to see how long these people actually stay together after having this experience.
Yeah. Well, and we don't know if it was really them that bonded, other entities between them that bonded, or we're not really sure what actually bonded. So, but it's definitely a heart opener. So we can't make any judgments. We weren't there. We don't know, but yeah, interesting perspective. So we wish them well on their awakening journey, and everybody has their own footsteps as to how they're going to awaken. So we appreciate that they're at least sharing their experience, and hopefully what we're sharing here kind of sets the story straight and puts things into a different light and perspective.
Definitely.
Okay, we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks for tuning in to this episode. You can get more in-depth information on our Patreon site, Psychedelic Sages.